It's 11:43 p.m. You're lying in bed, phone in hand, and you've just bought something you didn't need an hour ago. And somehow, you already know you'll regret it by morning. Maybe it was a gadget, maybe another subscription, maybe an EMI you told yourself was manageable. You didn't plan it, you didn't budget for it, it just happened. And this isn't a one-time thing. Month after month, your salary arrives, and month after month, it vanishes in ways you can't quite trace. Here's what nobody tells you. This is not a discipline problem. It is not an income problem. It is a biology problem. Because the human brain, your brain, is running ancient software in a world built to exploit it. And until you understand the code, your money will keep disappearing in ways that feel completely rational in the moment and completely baffling in the morning. Let's talk about what's actually happening inside your head every time you spend. Your brain has two primary operating systems, and they are constantly at war over your wallet. The first is the prefrontal cortex, the slow, deliberate, forward-thinking part. This is the part that calculates EMI totals, thinks about retirement at 60, and reminds you that you already have 3 pairs of sneakers. The second is the limbic system, older, faster, and completely indifferent to your 5-year financial plan. It runs on instinct and emotion. And in the contest between these two systems, the limbic system wins far more often than any of us would like to admit. Research from the Stanford Social Neuroscience Lab has found that during high-emotion spending moments, the prefrontal cortex shows measurably reduced activity. Think about what that means. The very part of your brain designed to make considered decisions effectively goes quiet right when you need it most, at the moment of purchase. When excitement peaks, when the Buy Now button is glowing. What remains is the older system, the one that evolved to chase immediate rewards, not to calculate compound interest. And sitting at the center of this system is a single neurotransmitter, dopamine. You've heard the word. But here's the part most people get wrong. Dopamine doesn't spike when you receive a reward. It spikes in anticipation of one. The pleasure isn't in buying. It's in the moment before buying. The browsing, the cart filling, the checkout screen. Research published in Brain Sciences in August 2025, synthesizing decades of neuroimaging and pharmacological studies, confirmed that activity in the nucleus accumbens, a dopamine-rich region deep in the brain, is directly linked to financial risk-taking and impulsive economic choices.
The moment you act on that impulse and make the purchase, dopamine begins to drop. The thrill fades almost immediately, and the brain, seeking to recapture it, is already looking for the next hit. This is why your inbox feels like a slot machine. This is why a sale notification on a product you never searched for somehow feels urgent. You are not making a financial decision in those moments. You are completing a reflex. Once you understand the hardware, the specific traps begin to make sense, not as personal failings, but as predictable features of human psychology. The first trap is called loss aversion. In 1979, psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky published one of the most consequential findings in the history of economics, that the pain of losing money is approximately twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining the same amount. Losing 10,000 rupees doesn't just feel bad, it feels roughly twice as bad as gaining 10,000 rupees feels good. This single asymmetry explains why investors hold on to losing stocks long after logic says to exit, because selling means making the loss real. It explains why we feel far more motivated by a limited-time offer framing than by a straightforward discount. Advertisers understand loss aversion better than most investors understand their own portfolios, and they design every sales message accordingly.
The second trap is mental accounting, a concept developed by Nobel laureate Richard Thaler. The economically rational position is that 1 rupee is always 1 rupee, regardless of where it came from or what you've mentally labeled it. But the human brain doesn't work that way. When your annual bonus arrives, it feels like extra money, separate and different from your regular salary, even though mathematically it is identical. tax refunds, windfalls, gifts, they all land in a different mental account, one with far looser spending rules. This is why people who wouldn't spend 15,000 rupees from their salary on a night out will spend the same amount from a performance bonus without a second thought.
The number is the same. The psychology is completely different. The third trap is present bias, the brain's deep-seated tendency to overvalue what's available right now and dramatically undervalue what comes later. A 2025 study published in the IIM Ranchi Journal of Management Studies confirmed that present-biased individuals in India demonstrably save less and borrow more. Consider the arithmetic of retirement. A 28-year-old who invests 5,000 rupees per month will accumulate significantly more by 60 than a 38-year-old starting the same SIP with identical parameters, not because of any particular skill, but purely because of time. The 28-year-old knows this. They will agree with every word of it. And then they will postpone starting by another month, because the present always feels more real and more urgent than any future, however mathematically certain.
And then there is the sunk cost fallacy, one of the most expensive mental errors a serious investor can make. It's the tendency to stay committed to a decision because of resources already spent, even when all current evidence suggests cutting your losses. Imagine a marketing manager who bought a stock at 800 rupees. It drops to 450 rupees. Every rational signal says the thesis has changed, but she doesn't sell, because selling means admitting the original decision was wrong. Months pass. The stock slides to 310 rupees. She has now lost far more trying to protect the feeling of being right than she would have lost by simply exiting when the evidence first changed. The 800 rupees is already gone. It was always gone. The question was never about the past. It was always about what comes next.
Now, add one more layer to this picture. The modern financial environment is not neutral. It is architecturally designed to exploit every one of these biases at scale. EMI culture makes large numbers psychologically invisible. When a 90,000 rupee phone becomes 7,500 rupees a month, the brain stops processing the total cost and begins reacting only to the smaller number, which feels manageable, almost trivial. Research confirms that people systematically focus on periodic payments rather than total cost, and that this effect is strongest in younger consumers. The numbers bear this out with precision. A 2024 survey by Commerce found that nearly one-third of all digital transactions in India are now credit-driven. A CredUGov poll found that 97% of Indian credit card holders simultaneously carry EMIs or personal loans. According to data from the RBI Financial Stability Report 2024, unsecured consumer lending, the most expensive category of debt, grew at 21.3% annually between 2021 and 2024. Credit card outstandings in India have tripled since 2019.
This isn't a coincidence. This is a system that has studied human psychology more carefully than most of its users ever will. Meanwhile, 30 to 40% of all online purchases in India are impulse buys. Every recommendation algorithm, every countdown timer, every only 3 left in stock notification exists to shrink the gap between the moment your limbic system fires and the moment your prefrontal cortex can intervene. The entire architecture of modern commerce is built to win that race.
Here is the honest truth. You cannot think your way out of a biological reflex. What you can do is design your environment so the reflex doesn't get the opportunity to fire. This is precisely what Richard Thaler, who won the Nobel Prize in Economics in 2017, proved with his Save More Tomorrow program. By simply automating savings increases to coincide with salary raises, participant savings rates rose from 3.5% to 13.6% over just 40 months. Nobody became more disciplined. Nobody transformed their personality. The system was redesigned so that the right decision happened automatically, without requiring willpower at all.
The application to your own financial life is direct. Automate your SIP before you can spend that money. Set up a recurring transfer to your emergency fund on the day your salary lands. Remove saved card details from e-commerce apps. Add friction to spending and remove friction from saving. You're not fighting your brain. You're routing around the parts of it that work against you. Alongside automation, adopt one simple rule for non-essential purchases: a 24-hour mandatory pause. Remove the item from the cart. Walk away. Research consistently shows that the majority of impulse purchases feel significantly less urgent, often unnecessary, after just one night of sleep. That gap is the prefrontal cortex catching up. That gap is where rational decisions live.
And learn to reframe the way you talk to yourself about money. Loss aversion is powerful, but you can use it deliberately. Instead of thinking about what you gain by investing 10,000 rupees per month, think about what you permanently lose by not doing it. The compounded wealth, the options at 50, the financial independence that becomes progressively harder to build with every year you wait. Make the future loss feel as real as a present one. Finally, track every rupee. Not to punish yourself, but to interrupt the brain's tendency to make spending invisible. The moment you bring conscious attention to a financial decision, you activate the prefrontal cortex. You engage the deliberate system. You create a pause between the impulse and the action. That pause is worth more over a lifetime than any single investment decision you will ever make.
Your brain evolved to keep you alive in a world of scarcity and immediate threat. It was not designed for a world of one-click purchasing, zero-cost EMIs, and algorithmic persuasion running 24 hours a day. But here is what that brain is also capable of: understanding itself, studying its own patterns, designing systems that work with its nature rather than against it. The professionals who build real wealth are not people with superior willpower. They are people who stopped trusting their feelings in financial moments and started trusting their systems instead. The money has always been there. The question was always whether your decisions were yours or your brain's. Now, for the first time, you know the difference.